get over, because moving forward we have a very special launch for all of you, where we will now be launching the International Publishing Data Report for 2023. The Nielsen Book Data and the International Publishers Association collaborated at the beginning of 2023 to navigate the evolving landscape of publishing within the IPA member countries. In today's age, the publishing landscape has undergone profound transformations impacting publishers, content creators and consumers, and a data-driven approach is required to address these rapidly changing dynamics. We would first be playing the video of the report, so I request the audiovisual team to play this. The publisher and the retailer landscape, the export and import opportunities, the regulatory framework and the digital penetration, which has now become critical factors in today's interconnected world. The Nielsen Book Data and IPA report is a collaborative project providing valuable insights into the publishing industry's ever-evolving landscape. By employing rigorous data collection and analysis methodologies, we aim to empower industry stakeholders with the knowledge needed to adapt and thrive in this very dynamic environment. And can you once again give a great round of applause, please? Moving forward, let's now start the abundance of knowledge from the very best in the business that we have. We will now be starting with our sessions, and our first session is on the importance of data and statistics in the publishing industry, for which we have with us in this session Ms. Karine Pansa, who is one of the panelists in this session. We also have with us Mr. Pranav Gupta, who we know already is in the Data and Statistic Committee in the International Publishers Association. And another panelist we have with us, Mr. Vikrant Mathur, who is the Executive Director at the Nielsen Book Data. And with that, I will now be inviting our panelists on stage. Can we give a great round of applause, please?
For the last couple of years, data and statistics has been much talked about in the publishing industry. That has never been the case in the early years. And since the time Karine, you took over the presidentship of the International Publishers Association, we could see and sense that one of the key areas has been over the importance of having the data and statistics. narrating the story of the publishing world, what we have. So, what was your specific goal and objective to carve out the Data and Statistics Committee in the IPA under your leadership, and how do they align with the broader objectives of the IPA?
Thank you, Pranav. Hello, everyone again. Having statistics, as I said during my speech, is not only important to know the market, to make decisions, but also to make sure that the importance of the publishing industry is perceived by other industries as well. Sometimes we don't talk about the importance of publishers. We talk about authors. We talk about the place where we stay, but we don't always talk about the importance of publishing. And making it apparent to the market is really, really important. And also having data to give to policymakers is also important in my view. So it was a way to start discussing about it, and we were not looking at it at my perspective.
Thank you. So we got the International Publishers Association collaborated with the Nielsen Book Data. Nielsen Book Data has been known for creating the data, statistics, various industry reports across the publishing and some in the education domain as well. So what are the important lessons I believe you have learned with this, with the collaboration between the IPA and the Nielsen Book Data, and your quick views on the report which we have done for the 2023?
Thank you, Pranav. I think the lessons is always good in numbers when you do any report, and especially a report which is a bulky report. I never imagined that it would have so many pages into it. But any report that you do, and the nature of the global, which involves collected information for the 74 markets. Now it is going to be, if I do a second version of that, it will be 81 markets. The learning is immense. I mean, looking from the language perspective, because you have to speak different associations in different languages, because if you go to Mexico, if you go to the Middle East, many would not like to speak in the English language, probably they would like to have their local language. That means you have to converse and collect the information from those associations in their local language, because then it becomes more authentic information, and it supports the respondent to respond in their own languages. So one is definitely the diversity is there. And second is and then we also learn that how different perceived about the information that they provide to us. So again, the information is the same, but when you collect information from the different set of people, the perceivance of that data changes immensely. And also it supports to the association or to the market where there's little information available or there's no information available. The data gaps comes up, but at the same time we go back to the client, in this instance the IPA, that support those associations in terms of data, information, awareness, so that when we go next time to them, the more data can be collected. And when the data is such kind of data being collected at the global level, it becomes immensely comparable. So that, as Karine said it, that it will become useful for the users, like publishers, when they want to invest in various markets, they can use information, and eventually for the policy maker, whether they are sitting in the respective governments or they want to do any business in the different governments, it becomes comparable information. Say example, number of publishers are there, one market with the other market, it becomes so comparable that why my publishers are X number versus the Y number. And many information that has gone into that report, it becomes comparable. So I see it's a huge learning that we do. But I also say the same thing, that since it's a first report, it's a first small step that we have taken in the right direction. And there is a much more report that will come out, I hope, into the same direction.
Thank you, Peter. So, with the rise of digital publishing platform, how is IPA supporting traditional print publishers in adapting the new technological landscapes?
This is a huge, as I said again on my speech, this is a huge, let's say, new world that the publishers are facing. But we have always adapted. And the first big transformation, it was printed books to e-books. We have adapted, we have learned, we have started to distribute, and now many publishers are navigating into this new world easily. So we support them, giving information that can be shared between our members. We invite them to participate on the committees where there is a lot of exchange of information, and we also support them locally if they need any type of support with regards to copyright and also to freedom to publish discussions that can be related to new technologies. AI is a big challenge for us, as I said, because the big tech companies, they're using our content without licensing and without paying to publishers. So this is very much being discussed through our committees, and it has to be discussed locally as well. And we are here to support.
If I'm allowed, because you are also a part of the data committee at IPA, you are the chair. How do you perceive, Karine has talked about, from the IPA perspective, the global leadership thinking about. What is your perception about the data committee when it has been inserted? What were your thoughts, and how you connect, because you are also one of the leaders in the Federation of Indian Publishing. How you perceive that? Because data is humongous. I mean, when you look at the global picture, you look at the local picture, how you perceive, in what direction do you think you would take it to the local and the global?
So if I speak about that, in my last 5 to 6 years of experience, like working in various leadership positions in India, and closely liaising with the government on the public policy matters, one thing I have really come out that the policymakers, what they look at is when we make various sort of representations before the government, the policymaker, they always look for the contribution what we as an industry are making. With this contribution could be, it has to be measurable. I need to justify everything. It could be an economic contribution. It could be what kind of employment we are giving to the society, to the industry. What are the indirect and direct, employment factors, and many other public policy issues. And if we have a data and statistics, these representations are backed by these data, it really helps us and makes our case solid before these public policy makers. When Karine carved out this committee, within the IPA, I was very interested and very passionate about that. We had a good conversation, I remember, at the Frankfurt Book Fair in 2022, and we were talking about how data is helping us, how this Indian book market has helped us to back our representations before the government of India. And we thought that it's a good idea that let's try to create a global picture. There are 76 member countries at that point of time within the IPA, and we couldn't have any global picture for these countries. And now we have 81 countries. So I believe that data plays a very critical role, especially in the public policy matters, and makes the markets measurable. Also, a lot of developing nations, if you see globally, they do not have the infrastructure or the capability to give market size or the numbers to any of the agencies available in the world. I think this is the right step at the IPA we have taken, so that this will, both short-term and long-term vision should be that long-term IPA should be looked as a reliable source in terms of whether we are looking at creating some kind of global data. That should be referred as a primary source. And short-term goal would be to encourage and motivate the smaller publishers associations across the globe that they should be looking at investing into this data, which is very important. This is I think so IPA is moving the right direction, and that should be a key area to explore.
May I?
Yeah.
Sorry. same way. It will only get our market better and better with more information and more data to be shared. And not every country or not every market sees these opportunities, or sometimes they cannot afford it. So it is also difficult to comply with this 81 countries and make sure that everyone has the same opportunity.
And if I want to ask another question, that how you want to, since you know that the global market, absence of the data, lack of the data, what is the awareness that you're creating? Even though those who have the information, what is the data awareness that you're creating so that it becomes a bridge? Because many times data is all for the industry, but how to use it, how to read it, how you are creating awareness program for that?
We're making sure that our members, they understand the importance of it, that they can make use of it. And sometimes we can divide, let's say, into the developed countries and underdeveloping countries, the ones that need the most data to make sure they can use for themselves. So it is quite a difficult challenge for us at the moment, but we are going to go forward and make sure everyone has the opportunity to see data, to have data.
I'll just add to it that while doing this 2023 report, we found that a lot of publishers associations had the problem in terms of answering the question.
Right.
So, as the chair of the committee, one of the key objectives during the 2024 survey, the report, if we do, would be first to create the awareness amongst the publishers associations, how to respond to these questionnaires, how to measure the market size. See, what happens is, if I just put an example in the Indian context, I may have my personal perception for X, for an X question. But if I am addressing that question as an industry leader, I need to ensure that I have the view of the entire industry, and then I'm, answering that question. So, a lot of awareness and the workshops, that will be one of the key areas in the chair of the committee, which is during the 2024, we would be looking at, inculcating that awareness programs amongst the publishers associations globally. That would be one key area which me and Karine, we were talking about, and we should be encouraging our publishers to do that.
That everyone has the same understanding.
Yes. So, because if we look at looking ahead, what are the emerging trends and challenges in data management and analytics that Nielsen Data anticipates within the publishing industry, and how does the company plan to address them?
I think I won't say challenging, but there are multiple opportunities that we see, and data, as I said, is not necessarily need to be a data or only market size. Data can be in any format. And Nielsen is, as a global company, always been keen to invest in various forms of the information that comes to us, and we convert that into the meaningful information. I can give you a classic example, and I think EPA people and the other people are here. We have been investing humongously on the collecting the metadata information, because when they collect the catalog information, which publishers keep close to their chest, it's always in the multiple lingual character. And if you keep converting that and keep addressing that into the English, it may solve certain part of the world, but it may not solve the problem of many parts of the world. So Nielsen made an investment. Now we are equipped to collect the information for other language, and we have been working very closely with the Emirati Publishers Association and collecting the information for the Arabic world in the original Arabic language. And then we produce the information in a global standard way for the Arabic language, which they can use it to sell their books into the different book fair, to the libraries, their books, and also to the online platform, brick and mortar, and they can use it at a multiple format. Having said that, we also continuously investing a lot on the data security. We have been using on the IBM Cosmos platform. Now we are moving to the Power BI. So heavily invested on the data security, because we believe that the sales data or any data that we collect, we also own a responsibility to the all our stakeholders, and we heavily invested on that part. that, we keep improving our foot in the different kind of consulting report. And that's the innovation that we keep doing is, we did an Indian market report, and we are keen to do many other reports in many other markets. Something like consumerism, digitization, and many other reports will be coming in, and you will be reading those reports and taking many more decisions, whether it's for your business or for a policy purpose, strategic purpose. So we are pretty heavily invested. And also Nielsen has because of the brand, we also believe equally important on the quality of the data. So we continuously deliver the quality of the information, whether it's a metadata information or the consulting report or any data format that we produce, has to be very quality-driven information. So to be Nielsen as a company, I can say, is heavily understand the importance, the emerging technologies, and we continue investing ourselves in giving the meaningful results again to those technologies.
That's it. So Karine, coming back to you, in what ways IPA collaborate with international organizations and government bodies to advocate for the policies and to promote and protect the interest of the publishers globally?
So we work together with the national members when they need any specific support. For example, in Africa, the copyright law is being rewritten and rediscussed in some countries. And we see there is risk of copyright infringement and lack of enforcement. So they reach out to us and they specify what type of support that they need. If they need a letter, if they need meetings, if they need special information from other countries. Sometimes, another example is Brazil. We have been discussing a lot about fixed book price because we don't have it in our country, and our association in Brazil has asked IPA to give them numbers about fixed book price in other countries. So it is all about exchange of information, exchange of knowledge, and supporting the member countries.
If I ask to both of you, because you are the industry leaders, what is a vision that you keep for the next 3 to 5 years on investing on the data and statistics?
For me, it would be key to invest in it, not only because of the results, but about the possibility of developing strategic decisions that can be used with data. And when we talk about data, we are not talking only about the results of it, but as you said, metadata is also really important in a way that you have all the business information in a certain way with and comparable with other countries and other places. So it is something that we need to discuss. We used to be a very familiar business in the past, publishers, like long generations, and this has changed a lot. And this is professionalizing the industry, and I really think that this is of huge importance to develop these sides of our industry.
So adding to what Karine said, my view in 3 to 5 years, more short-term goal would be one. Majority of the publishing reports as of now which has been published talks more on the market size, the basic numbers, the overall market size in the print book industry. Whereas the long-term push would, for the IPA in investing in the data and statistics, would be to also deep dive into the various pillars of the, of the International Publishers Association. Like for example, copyright is one of the important pillars on which the IPA basis the foundation is. So deep dive and understanding the various copyright regimes across the publishing nations, how AI is gonna intersect and change the legislature in those countries. Another area for us would be the diversity, inclusion and sustainability. That's a very important and burning issue, I would say, a key area where the reports, we don't have publishing reports or standards being made on those areas. So that would be one key area where, the Data and Statistics Committee would be investing a lot of time and resources on that. Another would be, lot of time we get data, like Nielsen is one of the major leaders in this area. So one would be, if IP is commissioning these reports, we may also share these reports with various universities, and how we can academically toss that data and get different set of interpretations, from the different set of leaders and their thoughts and processes in creating the reports.
Sustainability would be another point that we can discuss and be able to do that. How the markets are doing with regards to sustainability.
And so we have a time limit as well. So one last quick question, Vikrant, I have, and then I'll take up a concluding remarks from Karine. So while you do collection of a lot of data and a lot of these questionnaires, interviews are being done nationally, globally, and today's environment also talks about concerns related to privacy and data security concerns while collecting and processing the data. How do you ensure that these data from various sources within the publishing supply chain are being collected and being stored?
So I think there are two kinds of data. One is the data that we collect from the various retailers, the sales data. We signed a non-disclosure agreement with all the booksellers so that their data remains confidential, and that's being used only at the aggregated level. So nobody understands or sees any individual information for a particular retailer, but everybody sees the information of the total market. So Nielsen is very careful because there's a backbone of any research that we do. On the questionnaire or survey based, like we did it for IP, any questionnaire that we collect information, the confidentiality remains. We do not disclose who said what. So the name and the respondent name are not being disclosed in the report. But the collective information that we collect for a particular market is being given because that's how you compare the information. So one way is respondent is not being disclosed. The other way is identity of the sales information who has provided to us is not being disclosed. So privacy is being well taken care of. Data confidentiality is well taken care of. And supremacy is the information and the quality of the information that we provide has to be meaningful, and that is what we do under the Nielsen umbrella.
Okay. So Shesh wants to have a quick question.
Yep. Congratulations on the report that's being published. I think we're using the word data. Obviously, this discussion is based on data for statistical and research use from market, right? But I think we're also talking about technology. I think what we need to look at is, today content is no longer content. It has become, fortunately or unfortunately, data. So when you're talking about technology companies are now started using or treating content as data. Now that is where the IPR challenge is coming in. And we need to see how that data is going to be addressed in the larger interest of publishing.
We have a very esteemed panel after this session, and I'm sure that's going to be answered by them. Any concluding points?
Yeah, as I said in my speech, the big tech companies are using our content that is in the internet to train their machines. And we know that, we're discussing that, and it has to be spoken out loud, and we publishers need to take action as well. So this is something that we cannot be silent, and we need to be remunerated. Authors, publishers, we need to be remunerated, and they need to license our content. So this is something that needs to be discussed deeply.
So with this, we close the session. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the panelists for showcasing their profound knowledge and such unique perspectives, and I who's the Deputy Director General of Indian Council of Cultural Relations, to please give them the certificates for being such wonderful panelists for us. Can we give a great round of applause, please? Give a great round of applause, please. I now request sir to kindly present it to Mr. Vikrant Madhav. And now I kindly request him to present it to Mr. Pranav Gupta. Once again, I would like to thank you all for such a brilliant session. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into our next session, which is on the future of intellectual property and publishing through the lens of artificial intelligence, for which we have with us such esteemed panelists. Can we give a great round of applause for Mr. Ankit Sahni, who's the partner at Ajay Sahni & Associates. Can we have a great round of applause, please? I would also like to invite Mr. Amit Rajput, who's the managing director at PwC, who's the leader digital products and transformation. I would also like to invite Ms. Neha Jain, who is the partner at Regulatory and Public Policy Deloitte. I request all our panelists to kindly come on stage. And I will be requesting Mr. Ankit to kindly moderate this session.
Actually, if you allow, I think Neha, I would prefer Neha here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. So Ms. Neha would be moderating this session. Can we once again give a great round of applause, please?
Good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here and hearing Mr. Sarkar and the entire Publishing Association here. It's a wonderful opportunity to really discuss about this new topic about how the AI and the new technology is really impacting the publishing sector. So with this, I would like to really call upon that technology is something which is there, and therefore the adaptability is something that we really want to harp on. And one question that Amit, I would like to understand from you is that what kind of impact do you see on the publishing sector industry from a business model perspective? And what are the ways in which you are seeing the sector being navigated and integrated with the technology?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. I think this is a cheap question. This encompasses literally everything that we want to speak about here. So, content origination, content creation, content treatment, content distribution, content monetization. This is the spectrum, and content consumption. This is the spectrum that we all create in some shape or form. And we need to re-examine our position, what we are in which state. Today, content consumer has equal contribution in content creation than the content distributor or publisher. Content publishing has jumped from print to text to voice to videos and everything together, as dear Sandhya was saying, into data. And content articulation is different from content origination. So I could create a painting, or I could create content that is origination of content, but content articulation by an engine is different from origination. So all these complexities put together, all of us need to re-examine where we stand and where we gain most in the ecosystem.
This is something that the entire ecosystem needs to be integrated, and technology is getting into the entire spectrum of creation till the distribution, and therefore we have to take a cognizance of that. Another question I will get from your side is on there are a lot of developments which are happening globally on how the copyright issue is getting impacted with the content, the kind of creations which are there, especially with the creators. So, what's your perspective on that?
Thank you so much, Leah. I think I'd like to start also because Mr. Shashadri posed that question earlier. The good thing is, this is development from yesterday from the Rajya Sabha, which is gone up on the Press Information Bureau website today morning. The Minister of Commerce has commented to a direct question, in fact in response to the Parliamentary Standing Committee report on this subject, as to what is happening in India. The government says, the Honourable Prime Minister says, we want to be the world leader in AI. AI is the future and we want to do it sustainably. We want to be the place where everybody comes and talks. And like Mr. Shishadri said, data is pretty much at the center, at the core of it. I am pleased to share, while there's a lot of uncertainty, the good thing is at least there's a starting point the government has as regards the juncture or the intersection of AI and copyright. They've commented in no less clear words that number one, the 4 takeaways from that press releases I could gather today morning. Number one is they said the Indian copyright law regime, the framework, is in their understanding, the government's understanding, adept enough to provide for AI-generated works to be recognized and protected as copyright. So that has come very clear from them. The second one is they do talk about, as in her speech and in her panel, the IP president earlier mentioned that it's a big concern. Obviously, all these tech companies that are using our content, our books to train and eventually generate content to users and not compensating us for it. So that's the last paragraph from below in that press release very clearly mentions that we see this, the government sees this as an adaptation of primary works that are copyrighted works, and any adaptation, translation or any use in Gen AI, specifically uses generative AI by a user or otherwise would amount to infringement, and unless it's covered by an exception in section 52, by a fair use exception, etc., it will be considered as infringement. So that's great news, and the good thing is the government has taken a stand and said that we don't even need to bring any amendments to amend this or rectify this or clarify this further. This is our understanding, this is how we are going to enforce it. So with this message, of course, since the IP office is a department of the Ministry of Commerce, we should expect in the days to come the Copyright Office, the IP Office, to start taking this view into consideration while they're deciding various applications and the merits of things and so on.
Just taking forward the point on infringement, and again, this is very important for the audience here, especially the role that IPA and FIP plays. It's also important to see that how in some of the countries like Australia, EU, there have been certain actions which have been taken by the government in terms of protecting and regulating the content creators. So, any suggestions that you would want to give in maybe giving a perspective of how regulators have reacted there and what is the role that associations have played?
Sure, I mean, I'm hardly qualified to make any suggestions or recommendations on behalf of the industry. I think that's an issue that the industry has to decide. But it's good, we have a lot of stakeholders within this room today. One solution, and I thank Nia for bringing this up, for instance, in a different context that came up in Australia, was that Google simply was in its news tab. When you click on it, it was aggregating, scraping data of various media companies and taking their articles, and then obviously instead of visiting the Times of India every morning, you would simply go to Google, click on news, and then get a gist of all the headlines. Without Google paying really even a penny in royalty for even creating a 2-para summary that it displays there. So there the regulators stepped in and they said basically you have to pay, and it has to be the most effective means is collective rights management. So you have to pay from whatever revenues you earn. You run Google AdWords as well. So on the news page, that tab, whatever revenues you earn, you have to distribute it equitably amongst the various news media companies whose content you're taking. So one thing that has come up, and I was very privileged to have been invited to participate in the UK government's dialogue on whether text and data mining should be free for all and should form an exception to copyright infringement, or should publishers and authors be compensated for the text and data mining that AI companies perform. One suggestion or model that we're exploring there is collective licensing, which is good from IRRO's perspective. And as far as my personal view is concerned, of course, we're very early in the day as regards the debate and where it has reached. But as far as my personal view is concerned, I think it's also the most feasible or convenient way to balance both sides, because it becomes a body to effectively be a single window, provide a single window solution to collecting and administering royalties. So from the publisher's perspective, should you choose to participate in such a thing, and should Indian law permit this to happen with collective right management societies, think of it as an additional source of revenue. While you're getting revenue from collective rights management for print and photocopying, you would be getting revenue for text data mining should you choose some or all of your titles and your goods to be made subject to this collective rights management.
We should start writing to the government regarding our issues.
Most definitely, I think,
So far,
especially
on AI, generating AI, that we should start writing now.
definitely, I think it's the best time. For sure, it's the best time. Yes.
And in fact, if you would have a chance to speak to Ministry of Commerce, especially because copyright sits with them, they are pretty open in terms of hearing these kind of issues and exploring these kind of ideas. In fact, IPRS has been quite actively involved in terms of acting as a collective agency for these kind of royalty payments, especially in the audiovisual space. So it should be a good example that can be
First, we have to understand the issue as such in total perspective. We ourselves are at the moment is limited knowledge.
And a question related to you, related to this topic, Amit. This is again on data scraping and data mining. I mean, since you work a lot with technology companies, what kind of expectations do these technology companies have? And probably, what kind of opportunities you have seen in your working with them on content generation? Maybe something like already the content is there, and which is very, very relevant, and they may want to really collaborate with the publishing agencies. So any kind of business models that you would want to give examples of?
Sure, and I would like to comment on what Ankit has spoken about. I think we underestimate the power of the collective. A single word is a word, few words are a sentence, collection of sentences is a story. Data, when scraped in isolation, only teaches an engine how to articulate. Data, when used to give an insight in collection, gives perspective because it brings in the context to a particular story. And let me elaborate on that. Now, the large tech companies, they don't want to scrape the data. Scraping data is an effort. What they want is an insight from the data. So, if given a one-time scrape or scrape as a service by a collective of data owners, what the engine gets is a reference point to be able to answer something in a better manner. And I will take a real-life example of this, and I'll look at the business model aspect as well. In Nairobi, school books are not being consumed the way they should be. Hardly 3 to 4% children are able to read books, learn from them, and then go forward. As a result, the books are hardly being bought. They are being reused, but they are being reused in parts. That doesn't fulfill the purpose of the content creator, the publisher, or the consumer. The government funded a small app in Nairobi, and each teacher was given one cell phone. The book's data was fed in the background, and a chat GPT type of LLM was in the front end. The children can ask question and answer to the book. You can talk to the book. That increased the 3 to 4% adoption to 40%. When you're able to use the same content, they're paying for it. It's not free. So the creator is gaining, the publisher is gaining, the schools are benefiting, the government is benefiting. It's a society where more than regulation and the intent to regulate, it is how to regulate that becomes a challenge. And a cohesive ecosystem, when one party gains to the other, is more sensible than otherwise. And talking about content, I will take an example. Today, a lot of movies are being created in different languages. I'll take one example of Squid Game, which became a huge hit on Netflix. It's a Korean series. You would want to imagine and figure out how an obscure Korean series was discovered, priced appropriately, and distributed to the right consumers across the world. AI was price to which countries in the world it should be distributed to in the right consumption manner. It encourages people to create more content which is richer, invest more money in that, and benefit the entire ecosystem. And I can go on and on.
I think this is quite relevant, and therefore there is a lot of content that we have, and probably we have access to the limited market. So probably to the point that the technology can give an access to from a relevant market perspective, making it much more flexible in terms of whether it is multilingual or making it more adaptive to people who would not be having the ability to read it in the way it is as a traditional book, and therefore it gives a lot of relevance to that extent. Ankit, to a point on the Copyrights Act today, there's also been a lot of debate on the terminology of word author, that whether author could be termed as a natural person or even an AI technology-driven content being created. Can that be also seen as an author? So any views on that?
I think it's challenging because it all boils down to, again, probably the business aspect of it. Amit can tell us in his interactions with tech companies who own these generative AI tools. You see, one approach could be if I am a tech company that is invested in creating a generative AI tool and a large publisher. I take names because I've seen an article or a few articles of Elseviers that have made it to their website, and they do mention ChatGPT as a co-author in that. I was very surprised to see. So the point is, if we are to start going down the path of giving authorship rights to artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence basically becomes an artificial or juristic person in the eyes of law, just like a company or similar. The idea is that in such cases, will tech companies start asking for a share of the pie? Will they say that if a particular publication has fetched publishers X amount of revenue, 25% of that is ours? Because it has been used, partially created, the content has been generated, partially using our tool. And we have the evidence of it because you logged in using your enterprise credentials and queried. So we have the entire history of what queries you put, what content we generated, and now it finds a place in your book. So therefore we own that, and therefore we want to claim a share of ownership. These are questions that the government needs to decide, or courts need to interpret in the absence of any express laws. But it would definitely be, at this stage, a tale of a dog chasing its own tail. Because you see, eventually our allegation, as Karine put it earlier, is that our allegation is, and our understanding is, that large language model-based engines like ChatGPT have been trained primarily on books that are owned by us as the publishing industry, as members of the publishing industry. Now, if there is, for which we were never paid or compensated, now if they were trained using our material and then they are queried and they generate content which we say is primarily because of the data that they trained on, which is our books, will they be in a position to ask us to compensate them? So it's a rather funny and cyclic story, but these are questions that are currently being debated all parts of the world. Not so much in India, but I think we should be talking about it.
Before you ask the question, I have a question for you. You move around in the regulatory circles a lot. You talk to publishers, we have publishers before. Do you see a common vocabulary being used across the impacted and the regulator? Right? And we don't know who the impacted is.
So again, a very interesting question, and it is something where technology is impacting across sectors. So whether it is content, whether it is a healthcare sector, whether it is education, and there are similar kind of challenges that industries are facing in terms of adopting to the newer technologies and adopting to the different models. Now, if we look at social media sector, social media had been being used whether for the content dissemination. There were IP issues, but other than that, there were a lot of concerns from the public viewer's perspective that is it kind of intimidating any kind of an issue, and therefore from a regulations perspective, that's why the intermediary guidelines were re-looked at. and social media companies were required to get regulated, and they had to adopt code of media regulations. And there were ethical requirements that they had to do, including registrations, including compliances that they had to do, reportings as well. So I think they are taking steps around it, but again, from a protection perspective, I think the government needs to do a lot more things in terms of bringing in the right transitioning. One example that I can talk about is again Bhashini, which was recently announced by the government, again on the multilingual model, wherein the idea was to provide access to information in multilingual languages and make the different people interact. So if you look at even the G20 summit where they had showcased this was exactly the idea that a Spanish person could easily speak to a person who was only able to understand Hindi, and vice versa. So I think there are certain initiatives which government is taking, both on the policy side, regulation side, but again there is a long way to go. So one question, Amit, again from a content creator perspective, because publishers have played a great role in terms of bringing the content writers and the readers together. Now there is also a contribution now the technology companies playing. So again, from a content creator perspective, what will incentivize them to move in this kind of a career, and in light of the AI being adopted for content creation, the editing being done by them, but there is a lot more potential in terms of the viral marketing sense. So what are the incentives which you see from a content creator perspective to continue looking at this career?
I think when even machines are creating content, the only differentiator between content and commodity is the creator. You see a painting, you see a photograph, it's a signature of the painter, the part of the painting which says this is Rosetta, this is Picasso or whatever that is. In the creator economy today, collaboration is becoming a big thing. Somebody is originating an idea, but execution of the idea is a collaboration game. In fact, people are collaborating even at an idea stage. I've seen articles, movies, music that is being co-created by people and artists across the world. I think the role of the publisher is that of the orchestra organizer, the orchestrator of everything. Capturing the essence of the IP that is being created. Let us move away from content and data, talk about IP in particular. Fingerprinting it and monetizing it in bits and owning the experience of the consumer is the publisher's job, in my view. The way the publisher presents the content or the IP to the consumer is important. If it is a 3,000-page book, it is unlikely to be read cover to cover by a consumer who's not going to pay a significant amount of money to buy the entire book. However, small piece of content from the book presented in the right time and the right context to a consumer is going to be important. I'll take an example, and I was working on this project almost 25 years back. There was a company in the UK which was talking about insight and knowledge. So search engines were coming into play, and there was a concept about, if you search something, what is the difference between that and insight? And the answer to that was context. If you search for bear, is it polar bear the animal or polar bear the constellation? The answer should be in the context of the searcher. In the same logic, the presentation of the content has to be in the context of the consumer and has to enhance the experience of the consumer. And I take a simile here. Piracy of the movies has been a big pain for a long time. Technology has tried to break it down. People have tried, police has tried to catch people with cell phone cameras and so on and so forth. But people still go back to the movies for the experience. The movie industry is not dead. It is thriving because people are consuming content. They want to go back for the experience of the movies. Books are not different. Books are books today, but they could be a movie tomorrow. A story is a story today. It could be a podcast tomorrow. How do you look beyond what is immediately visible and own the experience of the consumer is going to make the entire difference?
I think this is very rightly said. I think just the last question again on some of the challenges that we heard from the earlier panel also is we have heard a lot about plagiarism. We have heard about data mining, but there is also a lot of question on the obscurity. So, people are really not aware what content is right, and therefore there is a sea of data which is there. So choosing the right content is right. So from a consumer point of view, any legal points that you would really want to share as an experience?
I think one of the most often heard, at least in Indian circles, one of the most often heard complaints from this industry is that there is now like a tremendous amount of various publications, publishers, pseudo publishers, anonymous publishers with a fancy name that have started to publish books in the names of authors that are even fancier, but when you look up the author or you look up the name of the publisher, it doesn't exist beyond a few pages on a website. And then when you go through it, it is content, but when we looked deeper into it, it appeared to be content that was almost entirely generated by generative AI-based tools, maybe enterprise versions of generative AI-based tools, and without any quality checks or anything of that sort. Now, in terms of obscurity, I think there's a play between copyright law and consumer protection law that comes into the picture. Because as far as copyright law is concerned, while you're allowed to be an anonymous author, you must still be an author that chose not to identify themselves. You can't be passing off as somebody or passing off as someone who doesn't exist and giving that impression that it's somebody very learned and probably residing in some tiny little nook in Oxfordshire village, a borough town, and you're very learned and you're publishing books or writing books for them. And also if there's incorrect information that is contained in the book, which goes to students, to researchers, to corporates, everybody buys books for reference. If it contains incorrect, factually incorrect things, there should definitely be liability that should be imposed on such publishers. The thing is, the challenge is big, because in a large country like India, these publishers are nowhere to be found, or they will clandestinely, very divisively figure out a way to, split their, decentralize their operations, and be at the same time in the UK have some office address or something, be printing the books in, let's say, Egypt and then importing it from somewhere else. So it's difficult to trace them, but these are challenges. Of course, as I understand, and Amit can probably tell better, if there are tools that can definitively tell if something has been authored by a human or has been substantially authored by generative AI. If there are such tools, I think those tools should also be adopted to sift and separate what has been written by AI and what has been written by a user. And for us, responsible members of the publishing industry, I think the right thing is, if we do use AI to whatever extent, we must include a disclaimer and let the consumer know that whatever choice they're making, whatever they're buying, is a result or product of X amount of assistance that a particular tool has rendered, whether it's editorial or it's any other kind of assistance, and the rest of it being human, so that they know what they're buying and what they're paying for. So those are broadly my views. Thank you.
Just the closing remarks on this, any tools that you would really want to talk about?
Absolutely. I'll be quick on this one. We'll be standing between now and 11. So, publishers like Meta have recently started earmarking the content that is they're putting on the forums as AI generated or AI created, whatever percentage of support taken. There are tools that are able to check hallucination. There are tools that are able to check how much of the content has been AI inspired or inspired by already existing material. Paradox is using those tools and searching and then going after the creator or the incriminator. If I push to the envelope a little much, is expensive and maybe not worth the pursuit. The world today is cooperation and rather than competition, and we have to evolve that way. I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit. Thanks, Amit.
Invite on stage Mr. Ramesh Mittal, President of CapExil, which is the Premium Export Council of India, to kindly come on stage and present the certificate to our esteemed panelists for such a wonderful discussion on artificial intelligence. Can we give a great round of applause, please? I request him to kindly please felicitate Mr. Ankit Sani.
request him to kindly present it to Mr. Amit Rajput.
Thank you so much. Well, artificial intelligence has definitely become so important, especially it has changed the way how we live, eat, and the rapidly expanding population of generative AI tools will be so useful for our field. And coming up, we have another short but very interactive session which will be moderated by Mr. Pranab Gupta, and joining us is our Honorable Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh, who is our Hon'ble Minister of State for External Affairs and Education, Government of India. He will be joining us virtually. He will be joining us in another 2 minutes. Meanwhile, we have with us Mr. Pranab Gupta. I request sir to kindly come on stage and give us an introduction about what is it that we look forward from hearing and discussing with our Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh. Can we give a great round of applause, please?
Technically, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh was supposed to be the chief guest for today's event, and he had to fly for an urgent Ministry of Education event all the way to Cochin. But since he has been a great friend for the Federation of Indian Publishers, so he requested that he would like to join in for this event virtually. I just spoke to him a couple of minutes back, and he's going to join in any second now. But I hope you all had a good time, and the last session was quite an informative one, especially on the IP and the AI. Good evening, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan ji. I'm audible to you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the event of the Federation of Indian Publishers and Indian Reprographic Rights Organisation, sir. And the entire audience is seeing you live here. And thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. And I knew that you had to travel all the way to Cochin for an urgent engagement of the Ministry of Education. But I'm grateful for sparing your time and meeting once again with your extended family, that is the Federation of Indian Publishers. Sir, any opening remarks for the day? Today we had a wonderful session on the publishing, education, and the role of artificial intelligence impacting the education and the digitalization trends happening in the country. Any opening remarks on that?
Very good evening. Namaskar to all esteemed members of the Friends of the Federation of Indian Publishers and Indian Reprographic Rights Organizations. Today, I myself is also, by certain condition, I do not physically attend to the group among you, but still in my heart, it gives me a pain that our father of the Indian publishing, led Sri Ashok K. Ghosh, the loud voice in every functions of the Federation of Indian Publishers and Indian Reprographic Rights Organisation. I personally feel very shocked because I could not listen to his loud voice, but even then his voice is mingling in my mind and in my heart and even in my ear. So with this, the feelings, I would like to suggest something, particularly Federation of Indian Publishers and Indian Reprographic Rights Organisation, on the context of the transformative trend in publishing and shaping the future through IR, tech, and data and AI. Here, under the National Education Policy 2020, our Honorable Prime Minister already announced the digital format in all spheres of life and in work, the life of works, and in this context, I feel to have such kind of the massive sense, the changing the landscape of the education through publication. In this point, the digital format with videographic and virtual print with voice reading of the text through AI or new age technology. So if we think on this, and now it is practiced in some of the country, even the articles, the print article was also, instead of reading by myself, the voice is always speaking on line by line of that published article. If that situation could we think and make arrange for our future shape of publication, then it will be what you call effective in terms of the combating the climate change and also reducing the forest for production of paper. Even in our parliament these days, we are using paperless the format. So like this publication in the near future, if possible, the friends of so if this kind of thing is take on that line, then the future landscape of publishing and future landscape of our education in the country will be the high-tech as well as what you call the digital format. So in a sense, about 20 years ago, when Professor Yoswap was in the UGC chairman, he has a commission in his name, learning without burden, without carrying the voluminous book. If it is in the digital format, and they can go with their smartphone or iPad, they can go anywhere, everywhere. They can, at any time, they can join the study, and it will give an impactful kind of study. So with this few words, once again, I really thanks to the Federation of Indian Publishers and Reprographic Rights Organisation for giving me the chance to join along with the family members of this group. I always express to you that, Mr. Pranab, I always say that I feel your Federation of Indian Publishers is just like my family. And so I feel proud of it, and I hope great achievement and great transformation in the landscape of publishing in tune with the National Education Policy 2020. Thank you, all the members. Thank you. At this time, excuse me, I could not join physically. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Rajkumar, just one quick thing. We have all the way the IPA President, Ms. Karine Pansa, all the way from Brazil. She has come. May I just invite her to the stage so you can say hello to her? Karine, can we have you on the stage?
Okay.
And Karine, some few words to the Honorable Minister.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for joining us. My pleasure to be here. I would like to say that we missed you in person here this night. And this is the first time that I'm visiting New Delhi World Book Fair, and it's a great pleasure. And congratulations for it as well.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Honorable Minister, sir. Thank you for joining us. And today we had the New Delhi World Book Fair as well. Last year you inaugurated the fair, and we really missed your presence today itself. Yeah. So on the sidelines of the New Delhi World Book Fair, we always tend to host a FIP reception dinner, and this was amazing, one of the momentous occasion for all of us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today, and we missed your physical presence, and hopefully in our next events, we would like to see you in person with us. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar. Jai Hind. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, we bring the end of today's event, and I just want to propose a vote of thanks to all the stakeholders who have been, gracefully come forward and helped us in creating this event. My special thanks goes to Minister of State for Education, Dr. Subhash Chandra, for being the chief guest for tonight's event. IPA President Ms. Karine Pansa, especially coming all the way from Brazil to specially attend the New Delhi World Congress. Very grateful, Karine, for coming all the way. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh joining us virtually through the Zoom call. Though he has been a very great friend, I would say, and a family member of the Federation of Indian Publishers, and he never leaves any stone untouched to join in our celebrations at any point of time. I would also like to congratulate all the award winners, the ISEC publications, the Oswald books, and the Quarterfold printables. My congratulations again to Karine Pansa for being the global ambassador for the publishing and the education. I would like to thank the Nielsen Book Data team led by Mr. Vikrant Mathur for supporting this event. Thank you so much for all the international delegates coming all the way. We have the members from the Guild. We had Mr. Abhay Kumar, the Director General of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations. We have Mr. Subhash Goyal, the President of the Federation of Educational Publishers in India. Mr. Shishadri, the President of the Association of Publishers in India. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to thank the leadership team at the Federation of Indian Publishers under the leadership of Shri Naveen Gupta ji, Indian Reprographic Rights Organisation Chairman Dr. Ashok Gupta, all the office bearers, the governing council members of the IRO, the executive committee members of the FIP, and all the secretariat at the FIP and IRR office. Thank you, Nidhi, for doing a brilliant job as usual you have been doing in our FIP events. And special thanks, I must say, the team at the Prince publication who has put their heart and soul in creating it the today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for extending a vote of thanks to all of us. And now I request you to please join us for dinner right here.
So good evening everyone, my name is Azim और आज की शाम का पहला गाना आप सबकी फ्रेंडशिप के नाम। मेरी जिंदगी संवारी मुझको गले लगा के बैठा दिया पलक पे मुझे खाक से उठा के यारा तेरी यारी को मैंने तो खुदा माना याद करेगी दुनिया तेरा मेरा अफसाना। मेरे दिल की ये दुआ है सनी सा नी सा नी नी दा सनी सा गा गा सा सनी सा गा नी सा नी नी दा सनी सा गा मा ता ता मा दा नी सनी सा नी दा नी दा पा दा पा मा गा रे गा मा गा पा मा गा। मेरे दिल की ये दुआ है कभी दूर तो न जाए तेरे बिना हो जीना वो दिन कभी ना आए। मेरे दिल की ये दुआ है कभी दूर तू न जाए तेरे बिना हो जीना वो दिन कभी ना आए। यारा तेरी यारी को मैंने तो खुदा माना याद करेगी दुनिया तेरा मेरा अफसाना तेरे जैसा यार कहाँ लोगों को आते हैं हम मगर तो नजर देखो तो नहीं, लोगों को आते हैं हम मगर तो नजर देखो तो नहीं। खाना पीना साथ है, मरना जीना साथ है, खाना पीना साथ है,